Hello, welcome to the self-learning platform by Dr. Sushma Singh. Today we start Unit 6, State, Market and Social Movements. And our topic is Changing Status of the Market. As you have read in the previous section, the market was given secondary position in the policy formulation in relation to the state in the pre-liberalization phase. The market not only had to depend on the state leadership and bureaucracy for clearance, licenses, or operate under the inspector Raj. It also had no major role in measures meant for various sections of the society. Besides, the market had to face the corruption, lack of transparency, red tapeism, etc. These were in general taken to be failure of the state. This brought to the prominence the role of the state in the process of democratization, governance, and development. A search for an alternative to the state as an agency for carrying out development and democracy started. A section of scholars and politicians argued that the alternative to the state could be found in the market. But there was an equal strident opposition to the market as an alternative. This was a general trend world over. The Western world was the neoliberal ideology, and through the institutions like the World Bank, International Monetary Fund, etc., played a leading role to propagate the ideas that the pinnacle of the problems of the third world could be found if the state in these countries rolled back or became a minimalist state and structural reforms were introduced in these countries. It boosted the market which is associated with the economic reforms program, popularly known as the globalization or the structural adjustment program. This has been true for the third world countries. These countries have been beset with the colossal problems in all respects and faced crises of governance, violence, corruption, lack of transparency, and financial instability and insecurity. In case of India, by the 1980s, the financial problems, mainly the balance of payment, had become very acute. The solution to this was to be found in borrowing from the international donor agencies, but they could lend only if their conditions were accepted. As a result of this conditionality, Government of India had to introduce the structural adjustment program, which came to be known as liberalization, privatization, and globalization. In India, the present phase of globalization or encouragement to the market started by the government led by P.V. Narasimha Rao in 1991. Despite opposition to the encouragement to the market globalization, different governments in India, both at the center and in the states, have been pursuing globalization since then. Some scholars, however, argue that globalization had started much earlier to its present phase. It is not a new phenomenon. If the immediate cause to encourage market through the structural adjustment program in India in 1991 by the donor agencies under their conditionality was the balance of payment crisis. In the case of sub-Saharan Africa, it was crisis of governance in 1989. It was indicated by the lack transparency, accountability, by the inefficiency of the state and corruption. The structural reforms, in a sense, became euphemism for the market. The indicators of this were removal of tariff and non-tariff barriers within and outside the country, creation of the free economic or trade zones, dismantling the license system or the inspector raj, encouraging the private capital and discouraging the state or public capital or public sector unit disinvestments, allowing foreign capital or multinational companies to invest in India and start their business operations here, allowing the FDI in different sectors of the economy. The market is also accorded priority in welfare sectors like education, health, and setting up the infrastructure, etc. While some argue in favor of the dominant role for market, others argue that the market had to operate in collaboration with the state and civil society organizations. Notwithstanding the differences among the supporters of the market forces, they all share the common understanding to accord principal place to the market. The market is supposed to be part of the second green revolution, corporatization of agriculture, contract farming, diversification of agriculture, changing cropping pattern in order to produce more profitable crops or monocrop cultivation, etc. In the service sector, the impact of market could be visible in the policies about the reduction of jobs in the public institutions, voluntary retirement schemes, and contractual employment, etc. Like in the case of the success, failure, and nature of the state, the reaction to the market is also divided. If there are supporters of the market forces, there are also opponents of it. The latter include diverse forces, the leftist, intellectuals, and organizations, Swadeshi, opposed to the foreign market, and section of Dalit spokespersons, a section of environmentalists, etc., are here. Now let us discuss state and market in the new context. The changes in the statuses of state and the market have occurred in a new context. The features of this context are decline of the Cold War and disintegration of the socialist bloc in the 1980s and rise of civil society organizations, intellectuals, NGOs, and voluntary organizations. These developments resulted in the erosion of the monopoly of the state as the principal agency of working for the welfare of the society. Apart from the market, the new agencies in terms of civil society came to acknowledged as the potential agencies of welfare of the people. While the questions about the efficacy of the state and market, whether one is more important than the other, continue to be debated. The significance of the social society, civil society organizations has become enormous throughout the world. The questions whether the NGOs alone can deliver the goods to people or they have do so in collaboration with the state and market are being raised. The growing significance of civil society existing along with the state and market, working either independently of or in collaboration with them, has become one of the principal focus of academic discourse and political activism. Along with civil society, the concept like social capital have also come to occupy important places in the academic discourse. Popularized by Robert Putnam while studying the civic traditions in Italy, the social capital is supposed to consist of networking, trust, and shared values among the members of a group which possess social capital. Social capital denotes existence of associations among its members, as social movements are collective actions with the organizations, leaderships, organizations, ideology, policies, and strategy of mobilization. Associations have become important part of social movements. However, the civil society organizations and concept of social capital have not gone unchallenged. John Harris argues that social capital depoliticizes development. Existence of civil society, social capital, and social movements are considered to be indicative of the existence of democracy in a section of contemporary discourse. The next point is contextualization, state, market, and social movement. Are the social movements related to the changing statuses of state and market or globalization? Like on the statuses of state and market, there are also opposite opinion on the relationship between the globalization and social movements. Some argue that the social movements, especially the new social movements, along with the rise of identity movements, have emerged as a result of globalization. But when you read different units of discourse, you will find that there have been collective actions of different groups even before the present phase of globalization was introduced in India in 1990s. Therefore, it is not always possible to relate the social movements to the globalization. But if we place the issues and collective actions of various groups in the context of changes in the political economy, including the globalization, it can help us to understand the social movement better. We can contextualize the social movements with some examples. The relationship of the social movement with the state and market can at best be seen in the following way: the state's ability to meet the aspirations of the people and their representation in the state agencies or organs, and with the market also its ability to give the people what the state has been unable to do. As you have read in different units, different sections of people started questioning the model of development and nation state building within a few years of implementation of the constitution. There were movements on the ethnic, linguistic, caste, and class issues. The personalization of the state institution by the political executive, along with the growing corruption, resulted in the Navnirman movement in Gujarat and JP movement known as Total Revolution. But unlike the later decades, the mobilization of these movements was done by the political parties, mainly the opposition or the non Congress parties. While the mobilization up to the 1960s had been done mainly by the political parties or the organization related to them, since the 1970s, the different social groups came to be mobilized by the known party or a political organizations through. In the due course of time, they became political. Gay Lombard terms such movements as the new social movements as they share some characteristics which are new. The issues raised by these movements are related both to the state and market. They are related to the state as the state has been held responsible for neglecting them and thus forcing them to launch social movements. They are related to market because of nature of their demands. The market related demands are the remunerative prices of the produce of the farmers, availability of the subsidized input. Some scholars like Tom Brass argue that there is nothing new in these demands. They were raised earlier also. The intervention of the market forces, especially the multinational organization, to appropriate the natural resources like water by the soft drink making companies has caused the movement of farmers in Kerala and Rajasthan against the usage of the groundwater. Retrenchment of workers in several public sector undertakings following their privatization or closure, increase in the FDI in the insurance and telecom companies has caused resentment in the working classes and the government employees. These, however, have not resulted in the sustained collective action. From the 1990s onward, the issue of reservation in the private sector has also been added to the agenda of Dalit leaders and political organizations. They apprehend that privatization is as a part of globalization will result in the reduction of government jobs. This will harm the cause of social justice. They argue that in the light of the shrinkage of government jobs following the privatization, reservation should be provided to Dalits in the private sector. This demand is, however, resented by the representatives of the market or the industrialists. But again, this issue has not resulted in a sustained collective action of Dalits. It is being raised in the pamphlets, press statements, or party manifestos. Now let us sum up the unit. To sum up, the relationship among the state, market, and social movements are among the much debated issues in the academic discourse. But there are two different and contradictory views about all of them. While one group of scholars attributes the reasons of the social movements directly to the decline of the state and rise of the market, another gives just opposite views about it. Similarly, about the changing statuses of the state and market and their role in fulfilling their tasks, there are opposite opinions. In such a situation, we can have a proper understanding of the social movements if we situate them in the context of changing statuses of the market and the state, even if we do not relate the causes of their rise directly to the market and state. The dominant or autonomous position which the state have accorded according to the Nehru Mahalanobis model, its nature, status, and performance have been analyzed by the scholars. The Marxists among them consider the Indian state to be a representative of the proprietary class, the landlord or feudal elements, bourgeois or capitalist, and the foreign capital. But at the same time, they appreciate positive contribution of the state, including its planning. There are, on the other hand, those known as neoliberals who find the Indian state failing on all accounts, achieving the growth rate and removing poverty. Though they are critical of Indian state throughout its existence in the post-independence period, their attack on it became more virulent in the new phase of liberalization, that is, since the last decade of the 20th century. They argue that the market had been accorded a secondary position in the India in comparison to the state. The latter had suffered due to inspector license Raj, corruption, red tapeism. The problems of the society can be solved if the market is encouraged to grow over the state. Their suggestions to encourage market include disinvestment of the public sector units to encourage the private or market forces, contractual jobs, voluntary retirement schemes, foreign direct investment in various sectors of economy, dominant role to the market in the state market civil society relationship, etc. The neoliberals have also been criticized on various quarters, which include Marxist as well as non-Marxist, for their neglect of the role of the state and giving priority to the market. In their opinion, the market whose sole motive is to earn profit cannot be expected to introduce measures meant of the welfare of the people. I. L.I. Rudolph and S. H. Rudolph recognized the autonomy of the state as a third factor between the capital and organized labor in politics of India, which is centrist not the class post politics. There have been collective actions in India before and after independence. Their relationship to the state and market can be seen in the context of their changing statuses. Within a few years of the introduction of Indian constitution, there were collective actions of different groups which challenged the Indian state. Since the 1970s onward, there has been addition to these moments in terms of more social groups, issues, leadership, ideologies, and patterns and strategies of mobilization. Though these movements might not have been caused directly due to the action of the state and market, their changing nature and statuses do provide a context to comprehend the social movements. Here we want to wind up this lecture and thank you so much for your attention. And we have come to the end of the unit.